I'm so excited today to be with Lenny LeBlanc. Lenny, how are you doing today, man? It's great to see
Um,
you.
I'm doing great, Travis. Great to be with you.
Well, thank you for doing this. When I think of the history of integrity music, but certainly the impact that so many people like you, worship leaders from the 80s and 90s and 2000s have made, like you were on that list of, the top 5 or 10 that have just really influenced me and so many others. And I couldn't imagine not doing this Worship Architects series without interviewing you. So thank you for being willing to do this today.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Well, let's jump in. Many people may recognize your name as a worship leader and artist through the songs you've written for the church, but some may not be fully aware that you have a very rich history as a singer, songwriter, session vocalist, musician, had number one songs in the 70s and 80s. Can you tell us just a little bit about your musical journey prior to becoming a worship artist?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida, and that's where the Allman Brothers grew up as well.
Yeah.
They spent their teen years there, so we all knew each other and would, jam at the nightclubs after our gigs were over. But before that, I was a surfer, and being on the East Coast of Daytona, uh, what you did after school, you either played football or you went surfing. So I would always go surfing. I wasn't a football player for sure. And so my friend and I stopped by his house one day after the beach. He had a car, and his little brother and several of his buddies were sitting around the living room playing songs from the radio. One was House of the Rising Sun and another Animals song. Can't remember the name of it. But anyway, my friend and I were just listening, and they looked at my friend and I at one point and said, "Hey, why don't one of you guys come over here and sing?" And we looked at each other like, "We're surfers, not singers."
Hmm.
And so we just kept listening. And I just went over there and picked up the sheet music. I knew the songs because they were on the radio, and so I started singing, and they looked at me and said, "Wow, you sound really good." And I said, "What?" They said, "Yeah, let's put a band together and be in the talent show." I said, "Talent show? You think I've got talent?" And they said, "Yeah, let's do it." So there was about 300 people in that auditorium. It was in a cafeteria, and I was so nervous, Travis. I had my hands in my pockets and my back to the audience. I was singing to the band, and
Hmm.
we won. We won the talent
You
show.
won that night. Okay. Was there
Won
a
the talent
prize? Do
show.
you remember if there was like a trophy or a?
I don't remember if there's anything, but what they really got excited and they said, "You need to get a bass." I said, "What's a bass?" Had no idea what it was. And so I went marched my little tail down to Egger's drugstore and got a job washing dishes, saved my money and bought a brand new Fender bass 3 months later.
Mm,
2 years later, I was making a living in the clubs. And, I moved to Cincinnati for a while to play with a band there. And I always stayed friends with the Almonds. And so Greg, after Dwayne died, Greg invited me to Macon to be in his road band. He just recorded a solo record. So I moved to Macon and stayed there a few months. And Greg really wasn't in a hurry to put a band together and
mm-hmm,
do a tour. So I
mm-hmm.
couldn't hang around. I needed to make a living. I had a young daughter and a wife, and so I called my friend Pete Carr, who was also a Daytonian and played with the Almonds in one of their earlier bands. And I said, "Pete, do you think there's anything for me up in Muscle Shoals?" And he said, "Why don't you just come up and try it out?" And came up a week, and just a little country town where all these hit records were cut. And I was amazed, and I fell in love with the place and moved up a week later and lived with him for a year and couldn't get any studio work for a year because nobody wants to be the first one to use you on a session because they've got clients and they don't know if you're going to be able to cut it or not. And so after, playing a few demos and playing in some clubs and things, I started playing on records. And then I was here about a year and so I wrote 3 songs, and Pete played them for Jerry Wexler, who was one of the co-founders of
That's right.
Atlantic Records. And I had a record deal 3 weeks later as a solo artist. And
Incredible.
that
Your
sort of
life, your life just must have been changing
it
instantly.
was
Like this,
yeah,
I
it was
mean, you must have
crazy.
felt like you're living in a dream. Jerry
Yeah,
Wexler is signing you.
yeah, I mean, Jerry Wexler was the guy. I mean, he was like the
Atlantic
godfather.
Records. Yeah.
He was like the godfather of music,
Right.
and so did that record. And then Pete was also doing guitar records because Pete was the guitar player in all that big Muscle Shoals, all the big hits like Bob Seger stuff and Simon and Garfunkel and Rod Stewart, Atlantic Crossing. He was a real signature guitar player in that Swampers band.
And for those who
So
may not know, like everybody was going to Muscle Shoals. There was
yeah, yeah,
like there was like the Midas touch was happening there.
yeah.
Rick, what's Rick's last name? That
Rick
was running
Hall.
Rick Hall. That's right.
Rick Hall
Was
started
the studio
everything here,
manager.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Jerry
incredible.
Wexler was a big part of that. Jerry began to bring artists. Jerry brought Aretha here
Yep,
for the
yep.
first time, and,
Read those stories. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and then you can see the documentary, it's on Netflix, it's pretty
Hmm.
awesome. But anyway, yeah, so, Pete was doing guitar records for Atlantic also, like instrumental records, and so they decided to team us up as LeBlanc and
Hmm.
Carr, and, so we had this big time manager. He managed the Stones, and he managed Leonard Skinner, and he managed us and 38 Special, and I'm sure we were pretty much the financial drain on him. We were the write-off, but, that's
Okay.
how we got on the Skinner tour. After
Wow.
Falling was a big hit. We did American Bandstand and all
And
that, and we
and this is before the plane crash with Leonard Skinner.
yeah, we were on that tour. Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, we did 5 shows. We started out in Statesboro, Georgia, at a college, and then went to the Miami Sportatorium, then went to Tampa Bay Civic Center, and then Lakeland Civic Center, and Pete and I split up the next day and went to Daytona to
Hmm.
headline our own show, and we were supposed to meet up the next day in Baton Rouge, and that's where the plane went down on the way to Baton Rouge.
Wow.
Yeah, really
Unbelievable.
sad, really sad.
Unbelievable. And Falling becomes a number one Billboard song.
Well, it was number 1. It really reflected differently in the charts because back in that day, the way they did the charts is you had to have all that airplay all together, it all, jumbled up in the last week or so to get you into the top 10.
Mm.
So it only got to 11,
Mhm.
but every market we ever went to, like we were in Miami one week, they said it was number 1 at every station here a month ago.
Mm.
We get to LA the next 2 weeks later, it's number 1 at every station here. Chicago, New York, every major market. So it's a lot bigger record than it appeared, but you had to have all that airplay concentrated at one time to push you into that top 5 and 10, spots.
And
So
you're how old when
it
all
was
this is
definitely a number 1 record, and it went million performance in a year and a half. That's like unheard of.
and you're how old when all this is happening?
25, 26.
25, 26 years old, signed to
Yeah.
Atlantic Records,
Mhm.
have a charting song. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So this is, a lot of your life before becoming a worship artist. Now tell me kind of what happens after, or fill in the gaps. How did you find yourself in worship music?
Well,
And what's the story on how you even found out about integrity?
Pete Carr was mainly a producer. He didn't really wanna go on the road as much, so he didn't
Mhm.
do a lot of the touring with me, so I do all that major touring by myself, except
Mhm.
for the Skinner tour. And so when we got done, I really wanted to just do another record for a solo record, so I signed with Capitol and did a solo record. We had a few chart singles, but nothing really great.
Is that Hound Dog Man?
No, that Hound Dog Man was the very first one with Wexler.
Okay. Okay,
And
gotcha.
funny story about that is there's 2 versions of that
Okay.
album. There's a Lenny LeBlanc version and a Lenny LeBlanc Hound Dog Man version because there was a song about Elvis on that record that a guy named Tommy Stewart from Tuscaloosa wrote, and, it was written about Elvis before he died. And when Elvis died, they put that single out. They flew that single to every radio station in the country. And there was about 3 or 4 songs that came out that week that Elvis died. And so the song went to the top 50 and the other ones went to the top 50 and they all fell out of the charts. So, and they immediately repackaged that album with that name on it after Elvis died.
Oh, I see, okay. So
So
there's
there's 2
2
versions of it out there.
versions. Interesting, I never knew that. I remember
Yeah.
years ago when I visited Integrity Studios, in Mobile, someone
Mhm.
had put the album cover in the studio. They're
Yeah.
like, "This is Lenny LeBlanc's, like, earliest stuff," kind of almost like, "Oh, I
Pretty
never knew that
funny.
about him." Yeah, that's crazy.
So, after that next solo record, I had a friend that I went to school with, and he went to Vietnam, and I would write him letters every week. I'm the only one that wrote him every week, every single week. He would get a letter
Wow.
from me. He was like a brother to me. And
Yeah,
when he got out, he started smuggling drugs. And him and his partners had boats and planes and ship captains and pilots working for them. They were big time smugglers.
okay.
And so he called me late one night and he said, "Lenny, I got saved and I'm going to heaven." and I want you to be there with me. Are you saved?" And I
Mm,
thought, man, just some things are going good. I was not looking for God.
right.
God was the last thing on my radar.
Mm,
And something about his voice, though, really shook me to the core. And he said, "I want to send you a couple books." Sent me the Bible and this little book about the end times, And so I started reading the Bible for the first time, really, and the Lord just began to reveal Himself to me.
mm,
I was eaten up with a lot of guilt. I'd left my young family 6 years before for my career.
mhm,
I was really selfish. I was just whatever my career needed. That was number one in my life. It was my
mhm,
God, basically.
right.
It's the thing I worshipped, and lived for. And when God started revealing all this to me about who I was and how bankrupt I was, even though I had all this stuff like the rich young ruler, the story in the Bible, I was bankrupt inside spiritually. And so I began crying out to forgive for forgiveness. And I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know anything. And that little
Mhm,
book that he sent me about the end times had a prayer after every chapter. It was like the sinner's prayer, to ask God into your life and change your heart. And so I got down on my knees probably 18 times that week because there's 18 chapters in that book. I got saved 18 times, Travis, in 1 week. That's a record.
That's incredible, but
And so,
your heart was
yeah,
tender.
I thought, well, there's going to be a light coming in my room anytime now, or there's going to be an
Right.
angel that's going to appear to me or whatever, like you see on TV. I didn't know what to expect,
Mm,
but my heart began to change. That was what really blew me away. I began to think differently. I began to see things differently. It's like the scales were taken off my eyes. My friends would come over and they said, "Come on, let's go get high." And I said, "Man, if I get any higher, I don't know what I'm going to do." I said,
mm,
"All I know is God's real. I know Him. I've talked with Him. I just know that there's a different path for me." And I was still signed to Capitol Records. They had just renewed my contract for another record. So
wow.
during this time, I was trying to write these pop songs, and they start out to be a pop song. When you get to the chorus, it'd be about Jesus.
Oh,
I thought,
dear.
man, oh, so Jesus. I thought it said Capitol's not going to want these Jesus songs, and they
Mm,
didn't. And so they put me in suspension of my contract for 2 years. I couldn't do anything. Sparrow wanted to sign me. All the big labels wanted to sign me, and they couldn't do it because they wanted $30,000 just for my contract, and they weren't spending that on making a record for their biggest selling artists. Because Christian music back then was barely even a genre. Contemporary Christian.
wow.
So yeah, we struggled for a lot of years, and we started going to a church, and I met my wife. We were dating when I got saved, and we got married about 8 months later, and but I never missed a bill. Um, I make things with my hands. I make furniture, and I built every house we've lived in. And so I would build a deck for a friend or make some stained glass for a church, and just whatever I could do to make a living, and meanwhile, I'd go to church, and the hippest thing we were singing, this was 1981, was "All day long I've been with Jesus. It has been a wonderful day." They were great songs, but they're camp meeting songs. And I was 31 years old. I said, my friends are not going to connect with this stuff. They're not going to, they're not going to be into this. And so I just began to go to the church. My pastor gave me the key to the church and had a big grand piano there. And I started writing songs
Mm,
for worship that would fit my generation. And so that's kind of where my passion for worship started, was just a burden for my friends, and it just grew into me, wanting a desire to express my thanks and gratefulness to God, through songs.
that is
So
so incredible. That's
yeah,
so incredible.
that's kind of how it all started. And a lot of us back then, it was kind of the whole start of modern worship, Delirious, and
Right. It
a
sounds like there
lot of
was
us.
just a lot of purity to it. It's just wanting to express what God
Yeah, and I
had.
think it was because we were just feeling our way through the dark, pretty much.
So you're getting involved in worship music, and people weren't necessarily ready for some of the maybe aggressive arrangements that were in like contemporary music at the time. To tell me about that.
Yeah, if you had a guitar solo or like a kind of a long guitar intro on a song, they'd want you to edit it out to like just maybe 2 bars. They didn't
Mm,
want anybody to get offended, and electric guitars were like taboo. You couldn't bring those in church. And heaven forbid you'd have any lights, on the stage or anything like that, or drums.
Wow. It's
So
just
yeah, we
changed so
we we
much.
call it the worship wars,
Yep.
and we won, which is a
Yep.
good thing, you know.
Wow. So tell me now, you're getting involved in, obviously, you're writing songs out of your faith. Where does integrity music fit into all this? What's the story about how they approached you, or did you find them? Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I was producing on the side a lot of custom records, and Kelly Willard, who's a good friend,
Yes.
was
Wow.
gonna produce a couple named Charlie and Jill LeBlanc. No relation.
Yeah, I know Charlie and Jill. That's
Okay, they're
great.
no relation, just good friends. And so she asked me if I would step in and produce their record because she really couldn't have had time to do it. And I said, sure. So I started producing their record and became friends with them. And they lived in St. Louis, and he knew Tom, um,
Mm.
the producer that produced all those records. And so he called him and said, man, you should use Lenny on some of these background vocals and stuff. And so I went up there in St. Louis and sang on a bunch of them, and then started doing little solos on them. And then Don Moen came one night and to Tom's house, and he said, "Man, we need to make you the worship leader on one of these records." I said, "Okay." So I did Pure Heart, and but it just started out as being a background singer on probably a couple dozen of those records.
Yeah, because your voice is unmistakable. That leads me to my next question.
All the Ron
You're,
Canoli stuff, I'm on all
yeah.
his stuff. Bob
Well,
Fitts, all of them.
I wanted to ask you, your voice is so recognizable. It's even iconic, like just that high tenor voice getting up there in the stratosphere. When you think back on all those integrity projects that you contributed to, maybe even before that first record, Pure Heart, the ones that were not your own, which ones stand out to you and why?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Hmm. I think I think, the Ron Canoli stuff was obviously really, creative and, like, way over the top, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
As far
yeah,
as how many people were there on the stage, and
yeah.
I was
Tom
like,
and Ron were really invested in those projects
"Oh,
together
yeah,"
too.
I think,
They
"What are
were
they gonna do
huge.
next? They're gonna fly Abe, through the audience?"
Well, I remember, I think it was was it Sing Out? And they're like, like, it opens up, we're gonna reenact the tabernacle of the
Yeah,
Lord.
yeah,
Like,
right, right, and held the trumpets and stuff.
right,
And
right, shofar.
that was in Lakeland at the Carpenter's Home Church,
Yes,
and that's where
yes.
Abe came dancing down the aisle playing bass.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've
Pretty
seen that
sure, yeah, at one
footage.
point. But I
That's
think
so
the ones
incredible.
that really had the most impact song-wise on me were the Don Moen records.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, because the songs were just they were just like you could tell they just had an international feel about them,
Okay.
and they went around the world, you know?
Yeah.
And I ended up too I would go to Don, and I'd say, "Don, just let me go with you overseas," because he was overseeing the whole label pretty much, and he ran the Integrity. The
Hmm.
the recording side, the label side. He said who got signed and who didn't, and what records
Mm,
were made and what ones which ones worked.
hmm.
And so I said, let me go sing background for you. Because Don, I don't know if you know this or not, but Don is huge overseas.
Oh
He's
yeah.
got a
Yeah.
huge following.
In the
I mean,
Asian market too.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Asian, all through Asia, Africa, Europe. And I said, just let me go. I'll sing background for you and play acoustic guitar. He said, you can't sing background for me. He said, you're too good for that. I said, no, I'm not. And I
Hmm.
just kept bugging him, and finally he let me come. And we started touring together, and he would at one point just point to me and he'd say, "Sing 5 songs." So I would sing 4 or 5 songs during the night, and we just became really good friends, and I just saw the impact that his songs had on the nations, and it's just really
He was a
impressive.
genius. He was a genius. He
Yeah.
was he was the charismatic Pentecostal that every Baptist loved.
Yeah, yeah, still is.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. So, like, as a deeply talented vocalist, your voice is both compelling and persuasive. Who were some of the others in the Integrity stable that you sang with and that you blended well with? Both
Kelly
music.
Willard.
Okay, couldn't even get through the question just like without it. Without it,
Yeah.
like what?
Kelly never did a solo, project on Integrity, but she was
Right.
always featured as a soloist on a lot of the
Yes.
products that came out. and we would do a lot of duets together,
Well,
you know, so
the purity of her voice.
oh
I remember her
gosh.
record, Psalms, Hymns, and Spiritual Songs. You remember that record that she did in the early
Yes,
'80s?
yes,
Yeah, those songs are just there's a purity and a,
yeah. She did it she actually recorded it here in Muscle Shoals.
no way. Are you
Yeah, and
part of that
I'm
project?
singing on it. Yeah, I'm singing on it.
I don't somehow I missed that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible. That's
If it
amazing.
was done in the '80s, it was done here.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, it was. I think it
it
was
would have
early
been,
'80s.
it would have been like 85, 84, 85. So it may
Okay.
have been in California, that one, I'm not sure, but she did do one here.
Okay. Any others that come to mind that you just blended with well vocally and musically?
Gosh, Paul, I mean,
Yeah.
I was on
That
Paul's
first that
verses.
that first record, He Is Faithful,
Mhm.
I've
Yeah,
always thought, like, the blend between you, Kelly, Rita, and Paul
yeah,
is almost like this Fleetwood
yeah,
Mac, Christine McVie, Stevie Nicks, Lindsey
yeah,
Buckingham thing going on.
yeah,
Like, you have to listen really hard to discern the parts because it's just
mhm,
a sound,
yeah,
you know? The
yeah.
blend of that sound. You're smiling as I say that. You know what I'm talking about, man,
Oh, yeah.
when you get that beautiful harmony.
We did another record for Maranatha before we were all into Integrity called, Songs from the Red Letters.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
It's a really
Yeah.
cool record, and there's a lot of that great harmony on that record too.
Oh, that's so great. So, you're an award-winning songwriter across multiple genres. Here we are in the '80s, '90s. Perhaps one of your best-known songs, at least in the worship world, would I be correct? Above All would probably be one of the best, well-known
Yeah,
ones.
Above All and There's None Like You, probably
Yeah,
the
those are the
biggest
2 that I
2.
think of. And
Yeah.
I suppose you probably told the story of Above All a million times. I
Mhm.
know I've heard it from Paul through the years, the co-writer, Paul Baloche on that.
Right.
But I'd love to hear it again, and as you tell it, is there, Lenny, a dynamic or an aspect of the story that you have never been asked about or had the opportunity to fully explain? I'm looking for something exclusive here.
Let's see, I might be getting into fallacy territory. But, pretty much, I was bad about having a deadline for songs to do a record.
Mhm.
Integrity would tell me like, "Okay, we're gonna start your record in 10 weeks." So I had 10 weeks to write 10 songs, or sometimes
Oh,
6
wow.
weeks.
Yeah.
And they gotta be good songs. It can't be just mediocre.
Right. Yeah.
I always wanted to write my own songs, if I could. I had the time and the inspiration. So I called Paul. I said, "Why don't you fly in, come down and write with me for
Mhm.
this newest record that I'm supposed to be recording?" So he flew in and he played me, you play each other's songs, pieces of songs you got started. And so he played me about, I guess, probably 6 or 8 ideas. And I said, "You got anything else?" He got this defeated look on his face, like, "Man, I just played you my best stuff." And he said, "Well," he said, "I got this verse that I've actually tried to write choruses to and sung it in my church in different forms, and I hated every one of them." And so he sang me the verse to Above All, except for one line we changed. The last line of the verse, it was something about the earth, and we changed it to "There's no way to measure what you're worth."
Which is such a great I know you're a songsmith, but, like, when I teach songwriting at a local school here, and
Mm,
that is, one of my go-tos when I talk about a great
mm.
payoff line,
Yeah.
you know?
And so we changed that. And then I said, "I really like that verse." I said, "Let me think on it." And so I'm an early riser. I got up the next morning before he got awake, and I sketched out my idea for the chorus. And he got up and we completed another song that I had started. And then I took him to the Christian radio station here and to do an interview. And we ate lunch, and then came back home and I played him my idea for the chorus. And it was like he went, "Oh my gosh, I just never thought about it going that way." Because when you hear the verse, you think the chorus is obviously going to be, glorious,
Right,
you know,
right. Something triumphant, something that, talking about God's greatness,
way beyond compare, you
Yeah.
just whatever you try to describe God in these earthly terms and you fall
Mm,
short every time. And
mhm.
so instead, I said, crucified, laid behind a stone. You lived to die, rejected and alone, like a rose trampled on the ground. You took the fall and then turned the whole title around and thought of me above all. And so, when we're fine tuning the lyrics here and there and trying a different chord change or whatever, different melody here and there. And every time we get to that line, like a rose trampled on the ground, we both just start weeping.
Hmm.
I mean, like uncontrollable. Like we were just like shedding a little tear down our face. We were like bawling,
Mhm.
and so we gain our composure and we try it again. This probably went on for 20 minutes, Travis. We'd get to that line and same thing would happen. And I looked at Paul and I said, Paul, I don't know when or by who, probably not me. Somebody's going to get this song and they're going to record it and it's going to go around the world. I just knew it in my
Hmm.
spirit that day. And then 2 years later, Michael W. Smith had started a church in
Right.
Franklin.
Yep.
He was leading worship and preaching some. And so he was looking for songs, and Integrity was good about putting compilations together of different songs from different projects.
Hmm.
And so they entitled one of the projects Above All and put Above All on the CD. And that's where Michael heard it. And one Sunday morning I went to the store before church and I came home and my garage door was opening for me. And I thought that's odd. And my little teenage daughter was standing in the doorway motioning for me to come in the house. And I came in and I missed him singing it. He had Michael W. Smith sang it for the first time at George W. Bush's uh, his inauguration, national prayer service at the National Cathedral. And he walked out. I saw it a couple days later on C-SPAN, but he walked out with a little piece of paper and laid it on the piano. And he actually messed up the lyrics when he was singing it because he really didn't know it that well. I thought,
Oh
man,
my
that's. I
goodness.
thought about it. And I thought, there's the most powerful rulers in the world,
Yeah.
and he's singing that song. That there's.
It's
That,
almost an act of defiance in a
oh
sense,
yeah,
like
he's above all
spiritually.
kings. He's above all kingdoms.
Yeah.
It's like, you think you're something, but there's somebody way bigger than you, and look what he
L-
did for you. You know.
Lenny, I see there's a guitar behind you. Could I humor you to just grab and sing a chorus through for us?
Yeah, if it's in tune, hopefully it's in tune. Amazing, you know. Crucify and lay behind the stone. You live to die, rejected and alone, like a rope trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all.
Beautiful. Why do you think so many people resonate with that lyric, with that imagery, with that thought? I'm sure
Mm,
you've had decades to probably think about this, but what comes to mind?
I think I think it helps people realize the gravity of who he was and what he did for us.
Hmm.
Even though he was a king above kings and, creator of the universe, he became a servant. He was the ultimate servant king,
Hmm.
in Philippians where it says he became nothing,
Yeah.
as a slave and was, he sacrificed himself for us and placed us,
Yeah.
for God so loved the world, he gave his only son,
Yeah.
you know.
Love gives, right? For
Yeah.
God so loved the world that he gave. I just
Yeah.
love
And he
stopping right
gave,
there. He
yeah,
gave.
right.
Yeah.
He gave and we trampled.
Yeah. Yeah. The juxtaposition of that and the realization of that is very powerful.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about There Is None Like You. I have this theory. I don't know why this happened, but it seems like there were a handful of choruses that came out in the 80s and early 90s
Hmm.
that somehow got truncated. Like the choruses became well known, but
Yeah.
the verses got lost.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's such a beautiful verse. In a second, I'm going to ask you to play and sing it for us. But that song, There Is None Like You, has such a beautiful verse that is equally as beautiful, that to some, not everyone, but to some isn't as well known as the chorus. Can you tell me the story behind that song and how it came about and why you think it just resonates? That one is sticky, right? It's still
Yeah.
people still pull it out.
I wish there was like some really cool spiritual story to it, but there again, I had 6 weeks to write 10 songs. So I was in my little studio just, working away and I don't know, I just that chorus just came to me, and my wife and daughter went to the mall, and, so I worked on it for a little while and then went to the take a break and came back and played it again. I thought, "Oh my gosh, I think this is, like, way more than I think it is."
Hmm.
And I don't know, it was one of those again that I felt like it was gonna have legs, put it that
Yeah.
way. It was gonna have legs, and it was gonna reach a lot of people, and a lot of people are gonna gravitate towards it. I think mainly because of those first 2 lines, "There's none like you. No one else could touch my heart like you do."
Hmm.
And it's just such a truth right there
Hmm.
that no person, no thing, no amount of money can touch your heart
Hmm.
like the Lord.
Humor me again, and would you start in the verse and then get us
Okay.
into the chorus after that?
Let's see. Mm, Your mercy flows like a river wide, and healing comes from your hand. Suffering children are saved in your arms. There is none like you. There is none like you. There is none like you. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I could search for all eternity long and find there is none like you. Something funny about that song is
Mhm.
when people sing it,
Mhm.
um, they'll change the melody in the last line.
Oh, really?
'Cause
Yep.
I could search for all eternity long and find there is none like you. That's the way they sing it. And
Ah,
the real melody is there is none like you,
like
like
you.
you.
So for all those watching that have sung that song for
Yeah.
decades, make sure you're singing the correct Lenny LeBlanc authorized melody.
And Fred Hammond recorded it back in the 90s, I think, or 2000s, and I didn't recognize one chord in the whole song.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
The
No doubt.
black gospel version. Yeah, the
And
black
that's
gospel
saying
version is beautiful, beautiful, but you don't recognize any of the chords.
and that's saying something because you're not afraid of some color chords either.
Oh,
Your
no,
your
no,
your
no.
playing is very, very intricate
I'm
that
good,
way.
but Don Moen loves to rub that last line in me. We do a lot of songwriting classes overseas, and we're doing those big tours, and
Yeah.
he'll say he'll have the the songwriters in the audience sing it, and they'll sing it the wrong way. He'll say, "See, that's the way it was supposed to be written." I said, "Nope."
Oh,
They're
well,
taking
let's talk.
creative license.
They are. They are. The songwriter is the authority on how it goes. Well, let's talk about these 6 projects you did with Integrity Music. I'd love to list them one by one and just have you share, Lenny, any memories that you have about how they were recorded, what went well, maybe what went wrong,
Yeah.
during the recordings, and how you really saw God just use them to deepen the worship expression in the evangelical church. So you'd mentioned it earlier, but let's start with Pure Heart. That was the first one, 1991, right? Pure
Yeah.
Heart.
Pure Heart is when Tom Brooks was doing all the tracks in the studio. And
Okay,
so
so
you would
it's
take live tracks, and they would have a choir at a church, and they'd be playing the tracks through the PA system, and then the worship leader would be live, and the choir would be live.
mhm.
And so it was kind of an odd way to do a live record, but I think the budget constraints back then just kind of dictated what you did, and what you couldn't do. And so that was an
What church was
experience,
that?
different
What church was that done at?
at my home church, Faith Church in Florence,
Okay,
Alabama. It was called
okay,
Faith Tabernacle back then.
okay.
And so, yeah, we did that there. And then, you go back and fix things in the studio. I had to redo my vocals because the choir mics were in my vocals and all that stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Bleeds in, everybody bleeds into everyone else. So, which one
What
was
are the
next after?
standout? what are the standout tracks from that project? There's None Like You, obviously.
There's None
Do you
Like
remember?
You. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even remember. It's been ages since I even listened to that record, so I couldn't tell you what was on there.
Wow.
That's bad.
Uh,
I know.
it's been a long time. After that, there was All My Dreams. Remember that
Yeah.
project?
Oh, All My Dreams was one of my favorite projects to do.
Okay.
My good friend Mac McAnally, who's an incredible artist in his own right. You know who he is,
Uh-huh.
Mac McAnally?
I don't know who he is, no.
He's Jimmy Buffett's band leader.
Okay.
He's the big red-headed guy, and
Okay, very
amazing.
cool.
He won 11 CMA awards for Musician of the Year. He produced all the Sawyer Brown records.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
He's played on everybody's brother's record.
Okay.
Just an incredible recording artist, songwriter. Um, anyway, he co-produced it with me, so we got a lot of great Nashville players in that on that
Mm,
record. And ended up one of the songs that I wrote for my wife called "Treat Her Right" is on that record.
mhm,
Well, Mac, being the producer for Sawyer Brown, he gave Mark Miller, the lead singer, a copy of that record,
mhm.
and Mark recorded 2 songs off that record.
Okay.
One on called "Carpenter's Son" that I wrote
Mhm,
with Mike Curtis, a good friend.
mhm.
He did that on a video compilation that Ricky Skaggs did
Oh, okay.
called "Silent Witness," and,
Mhm.
and the other one he recorded on the Sawyer Brown record, and it was their last number 1 country album record single
Incredible.
in 1996, yeah. So,
Wow.
that was a special record for me.
And where
Mm.
was that? Was that a studio project or a live project?
That was a studio project.
Okay. And where was that recorded again?
That was more recorded in Omni Studios, which is
Mhm.
the old RCA building in Nashville.
Very cool.
It's where Elvis
L
recorded.
Legendary. There must be
Yeah,
some
it was
magic in
really
that place.
awesome studio, and then we took it back to Muscle Shoals and did a lot of overdubs and
Yeah.
stuff, there, and I think we mixed it in Mobile.
Were you given the latitude? Because I noticed on your projects, like, there are songs that are overtly worship songs, but then there's other songs that are artistic life
Mhm.
songs, positive
Yeah,
songs.
yeah.
Were you given that latitude when you
Mm.
submitted projects?
I was because they recognized that I wasn't just a worship leader,
Mhm.
and it was really confusing for people, I think, in a lot of ways, because when I'd go do interviews at GMA or wherever on the radio, they would say, "So what are you, a worship leader or an artist?" I said, "I think I'm kind of both, because I led worship in my church. So that was part of who I was.
Mhm.
I felt
Mhm.
a real calling to that, but I was also a singer-songwriter,
Mhm.
and I write other songs. Just 5 years ago, Willie Nelson recorded one of my songs. I never thought I'd get a Willie Nelson recording. I mean, it's like
Incredible.
crazy. How does
Incredible.
that happen? But it just did. It did.
Incredible.
And
What a
so,
what a songwriter too. Just absolutely
oh,
incredible.
I mean, you get a song on Willie Nelson's record. He's like one of the greatest songwriters in the world. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you get a song? It's like, wow.
Unbelievable. The Bridge.
Yeah, The Bridge again. That's one of my favorites. The Bridge is my story. That song is my story. Kind of growing up in
Mm.
Florida,
Mhm.
and
Where was that recorded?
that was recorded in Nashville at Sound Emporium, I think,
Mhm.
and then finished here
Mhm.
in the Muscle Shoals.
Any memories about who played on that record or any stories during that time that come to
Yeah,
mind?
trying to think of the guy's name. Anyway, back to the All My Dreams record. Stuart
Oh,
Smith.
sorry, yeah. Yeah.
Stuart Smith. I just remember Stuart Smith played electric guitar in that record,
Mhm.
and he played on Winona's big record. And that's where I
Oh,
heard him first.
okay.
And he just retired from the Eagles. He's
Was
been
that
he's been the he's
was
been the
that
Eagles
when
guitar player for like 10 years.
incredible. Was that Winona's first solo record, Tell Me Why, or was it when she was still with the Judds?
It's the one that she won all the Grammys and stuff on. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I remember Tell Me Why was a big, like, Sheryl
Hmm.
Crow had a cut on that. That was a killer
Yeah.
'90s country record.
In the Bridge, we had Michael Rhodes playing bass,
Okay.
who's recently passed. Just an incredible bass player. Steve Nathan,
Mhm.
who was in LeBlanc and Carr initially. He was my piano
Really?
player, and
Okay.
he's played on all the Garth Brooks records, all of gosh, you name it. He's played on every Nashville big artist that there is. They call him the Prez. the president, because he's played on so many records, you know. So
That's so
he
funny.
was playing keys, Steve Brewster was playing drums,
Okay.
and then I can't remember the guy's name that was playing guitar. Anyway, it was a great band.
Mm, no
Yeah,
doubt.
and Mac played acoustic guitar.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then we have Above All, obviously
yeah,
capitalizing on the Lord blowing wind in the sails of that song.
yeah. Live records are a nightmare. Let me just tell you.
Tell tell me
I
tell me why you say that. What happened on that project?
I hate live records because to
Okay.
do a live record right, you need to record like 5 different nights,
Yeah.
and nobody can afford to do that. James Taylor did a live record and recorded 18 concerts and took the best from 18 concerts. You can't help but have a great record,
Right.
doing that. We had
Mhm.
one try.
That's it.
That's it. So you get together, we flew into Los Angeles, actually Orange County, Riverside, at Greg Laurie's church.
Yeah, Harvest,
'Cause
yeah.
yeah, Harvest. So Greg had been bringing me out, once or twice a year, and I was doing all the Harvest Crusades. Did the very first one at Pacific Amphitheater, and had a great relationship with Greg and his whole church staff. So they let us come there and record, and so the day before we do the record, the musicians have never heard the songs.
Oh my.
You know,
Okay.
you try to send them demos, but a lot of times they're in sessions. They don't have time to listen to them,
Uh-huh.
and they'll listen on the plane on the way out there. That's just
Mhm.
reality.
Yep.
And so you're learning the song, and you do a run through with the live audience, and then you have to come back and while everybody's still there and say, okay, we need to hit this one, and this one again because we didn't get good takes of them. Something happened, or
Mm.
whatever. And so, you end up recording a lot of the stuff over again in the studio because I got drums bleeding into my vocal mic,
Mm.
and
Right.
just bad notes here and there. You end up having to do all the vocals over just about background vocals and lead vocals.
This
So
project had, of course, the title track, but you also re-recorded There Is None Like You. Was there a specific reason or a prompting to do that again?
probably just didn't have enough songs.
Bring back the old favorites.
Yeah. And I did Born to Worship too, because Born to Worship was on one of my older records that I did for Maranatha.
I love this project, and I think it's because the harmonies are just so rich on it again.
Yeah, yeah,
But just some great tracks on it. That's
yeah,
Why I'm Here.
yeah,
What a
yeah.
wonder. You are the one that I love. Yeah.
My favorite song on one of my favorite songs on that record is the Rainbow Song.
Okay. What do you like about that?
It's just so simple,
Yeah.
and it's just there's a purity about it that I love. And we were in, I was with Don, and we were in Cameroon, which is just kind of southeast of Nigeria,
Hmm.
and we were out 2 or 3 hours away from any city in the rainforest. And they had all these lights and everything. There was about 4 or 5 thousand people there. And Don pointed to me and said, sing a song. And so I did Rainbow Song. And I started hearing all these people singing it. I thought, how in the world do they know this song?
Mm,
And Don started getting his camera out and he started filming it. It was like, but it
unbelievable.
just blew me away that they sang that song. And it was just so beautiful in that rainforest, just hearing all those people sing it.
Give us that chorus, just a cappella here, for those who may not know it.
If I was a rainbow, show my colors for you. And if I was a songbird, I sing my song for you. You can take the moon and the stars, take away. See, no, it's hard to sing it without a guitar.
So I'm not the only one that
Oh,
has problems
whoops!
for
I knew that. I
so
was going to flip over. Oh, it's if the second half is if you take the sun and the moon, take away the stars at night, your faithful word will always be my light.
mm,
Beautiful, such a miracle that you would give up heaven just for me. All I want to do is fall more in love with you. This world doesn't own me anymore. One thing
mm.
that I know for sure, that if I was a rainbow, Show my colors.
That's so beautiful. What was where did that song come from? Is that you? Is that you and someone else?
That's me and just my crazy thought patterns. I thought, what if I was a rainbow? How would I relate to God? What if I was a songbird? I'd sing my song for him to him.
I love that. I love that. So we got the Above All record, and then not too long after, we got One Desire. Tell me
Oh,
about what you remember about one oh
oh,
dear, he's shaking his
I
head.
get a pain in my head every time every time. That was a great record. It was so difficult because, well, we did it at a church, big church in Atlanta, Michael Youssef's church.
Mhm.
'Cause I had been there several times, and they had wanted me to come and make our live record there. And so, um,
It's Church of the Apostles
yeah, Church of the Apostles, right?
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the recording was Sunday night. Well,
Mhm.
someone in the church scheduled a wedding for Sunday after church. And we did worship that morning so we wouldn't have to strike all of our gear.
Oh my
Because,
gosh.
they got everything set up and, we had string section and everything. And so we had to strike the stage for that wedding and then set it back up in order to have time to, and then 10 minutes before the recording started, we were on in-ears on in-ear system, the
Yeah.
monitors, in-ears, and we had 3 or 4 different mixes. Well, 3 of the mixes went out, and we had 2 mixes left. So we were all having to share. I was sharing a mix with the keyboard player, and it was just
Oh, man.
technically, it was just a real challenge. Just
Wow.
really it was rough. Yeah,
My favorite song that you ever wrote was on that project, We All Bow Down.
we all bowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kings will surrender their crowns and
yeah,
worship Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah.
Never got the recognition it really deserved, I think. Twyla Paris recorded it, and some Baptist choirs did it, but
And what an honor for Twyla to record
oh,
it,
yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, and she
legend
did a
right
beautiful
there.
version of it too. She did a beautiful version of it. But, yeah,
Yeah.
that's always been one of my favorites too. I think the reason it didn't translate, like, Chris Tomlin
Mhm.
rather, heard it, and Chris would always say, play me that intro to There's None Like You," because we did a little bit of touring with Chris
Okay.
before he became really big,
Mhm.
and, backstage, he would say, "Play me that intro for There's None Like You," that's it's that little,
Alright.
you know, "That's so cool, that's so cool, I gotta learn that, I gotta learn that." And then when he heard, "We All Bow Down," he said, "Oh my god, I gotta," he said, "That needs to be on a Passion record." I said, "Yeah, it does. Come on, Chris, what are you waiting on?" But I think it's because it was so complicated chord-wise. I think that's why they never recorded it.
Walk us through that.
Oh, it's a piano song, and
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah, and I'd have to rehearse it myself for about 5 minutes before I play it for you.
Was that
Is
a
that
was that a co-write, Lenny, or is that by yourself?
That's by myself.
So the wow, with the exception of Above All, some of your best known songs have come just from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oddly enough.
Do you find it hard to co-write?
No, I like co-writing,
Just the way it's been.
but it has to be the right person because, sometimes you have a chemistry with somebody and sometimes you don't. I've written with people one time and after I leave, I say, "Well, that's probably a one and done. It just didn't happen." And
Yeah.
other people, it's like, "Oh man, let's write tomorrow,"
Mhm.
because there was a real chemistry there and it really happened. But one thing I don't like is writing with more than one person.
Really?
Like, I look
So
at a lot of
groups
these
of 3
songs
or
today, and
4,
there's
yeah.
like 4 and 5 writers on the song,
Mhm.
and really, when it comes down to it, there's gon 2 people wrote that song.
Hmm.
The other 3 came in the room with coffee, or 1 typed, or 1 wrote 1 line,
Mm.
and that's just reality. I don't see
Mm.
how 5 people can write 1 song
Mhm.
and come to a, conclusion of how it should be. It's just insane to me. I don't get it.
What's your top songwriting advice, Lenny, for those who maybe want to write worship songs?
My top songwriting
Songwriting advice, yeah.
advice, I think mainly is just to keep doing it. It's like a muscle. You have to exercise it, and if you don't write, at least be thinking about what you want to write and exercising those thoughts, and just let your imagination go, because there's so many things you think like in worship music. A lot of times I'll say, man, what else can be written? It's like, and then you hear a song like,
Mhm.
all my life you have been
Oh,
faithful.
goodness
You
of
hear
God.
goodness of God. You hear
Yeah.
a song like that and you go, God, why didn't I write that? It's so simple, but it's like it was hidden from us, you know what I mean? Until
Yeah.
she wrote it.
Yeah.
Till Jen wrote it. And it's like, man.
Well, isn't that, and Paul Simon says, great songwriters just reveal what's already there. They're just
Yeah.
uncovering what's already
Oh,
there.
that's
And I love
beautiful
that.
right there. That's
Yeah.
beautiful right there.
I love
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
one more project, All for Love. What
All
are your
for love.
memories? What are your memories of All for Love? Kind of has that.
Mm.
Remember the Three Musketeers that came out in the night? All for one and all for love. Rod Stewart, Brian Adams. I'm having this Paul Baloche Take a Bunny Trail moment. Do you know the movie I'm
All, f-
talking about?
all for you. I think, is it all
Was it
for
all for
you?
you? Anyway,
Yeah.
when I saw that title, I'm like, for some reason, it came. Three Musketeers came back to
Yeah.
me.
Well, yeah,
What do you remember
could
about that
be.
project?
Oh gosh. Not much. I'd have to go back through the songs. That was another one where it was a studio record. And gosh, I don't know.
Let me see if I can bring it up here really quickly.
Bring some of the titles up.
Yeah, All for Love. Ascend, Walls Come Down,
Oh yeah.
Make Way for the King, The
Yeah, a lot of
Rain,
those. Okay, now
Holy,
it's bringing back, like, during that
Portrait.
time in our church, there was just a real move of God,
Mm,
almost like a miniature revival, I think, for about 2 years. And our church grew about 40%,
wow.
and, we were having some amazing times in worship, and a lot of those songs were born, like "Make Way for the King"
Hmm.
and, "Ascend" were all, kind of, that actually wasn't a studio record. Now it's a live record. Sorry.
Okay.
They all run together, but, yeah, I brought guys down from Nashville and some of 'em local guys here. My guitar player, Scott, was on it,
Hmm.
and, some amazing musicians, were on that. But, yeah, an amazing time, but Ascend, yeah.
And that was done at your local church in Muscle Shoals?
Yes,
Incredible. I'm not as familiar with that project. I'm gonna have to pull it out and
yeah.
have it, give it a listen.
It's a great live album, it really is. And
That's so
Portrait of
great.
My King is on that album, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's
Portrait
one
of
of
My
my
King.
favorites. I love that song,
Wow.
Portrait of
Um,
My King.
Lenny, like the 80s and 90s were such a formative time when it came to like
Mhm.
modern worship music. What do you think
Yeah.
God was doing during that time? And what do you think was unique about integrity and what that label was doing to platform artists like you? What do you think was accomplished during your tenure with Integrity Music?
I think for the worship side of it, and as far as the artist side goes, I think there was a lot of artists that really wanted to do more than just positive songs about God, but they wanted to do songs that were written to God,
Mm,
and there's a big difference. And
mm-hmm,
I think that was what was happening with a lot of the musicians, and they were finding that outlet in worship
mm-hmm.
in their churches, and then Integrity just kind of recognized that they were New Wine Magazine, basically, is where
Yes.
they
Yep.
started.
Where it came
They
out
had
of.
a
Yep.
mailing list of 6 or 7,000 people, and they mailed out
Mm-hmm.
offers. If we gave you a cassette tape every 2 months, would you sign up? And, like, they had 4,000 people sign up.
Mm.
And the first few projects were, like, projects that had been recorded inside churches that they'd done themselves.
Yeah. They were licensed, the first two.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were licensing the masters, and so, Integrity, really realized, I think they just touched the heart of God, and they really had a heart for the nations and a vision for the nations. And so that's how my songs got overseas. That's how Don Moen's songs got overseas.
Mm.
And I had so many people in Africa come up to me when I was there. I've been many trips to Africa, and they would say, you and Don Moen taught us how to worship.
Mm.
They said,
Wow.
because their songs are really, really celebratory and they're dancing and but they
Yeah.
had no intimate songs.
Right. Right. Right.
And those songs enabled them to really just cry out and express their heart cry to God. And so integrity really was a vehicle for that for many of us. And my hat's off to Mike Coleman because he really had a heart for the nations.
Wow. How does
Yeah.
that make you feel when people, like, in another country say, "You helped us learn how to worship"?
Oh, it's just unbelievable. I was singing
Mm,
in Nigeria one time. We were singing. I was with Don Moen, and we were at this place called the I think they call it the Tabernacle or the
mhm,
tent or something like that.
mhm,
It's a big denomination over there, and they have a monthly meeting where they have this big outdoor venue, and it's just basically a roof with like poles. And it's a quarter of a mile long,
mhm.
and it seats 1 million people. Now they
Wow.
have one.
Oh
They
my
built another
gosh.
one. They built another one beside it that seats 2.5 million now. I
That's
haven't been to that
insane.
one, but I was there. We were there on a Thursday night, which is not the big night, and there was 600,000 people there. And I,
Oh my goodness. You've played for 600,000 people?
yeah, 600,000 people.
You
As
gotta
far
send me
as
a
you
f
can,
you
far
you
as you
gotta
can see.
you gotta send me a photo of that. We
Oh,
gotta
I
somehow.
don't have a photo of it, but
That's insane.
yeah. But I started singing above all, and they started singing it. They know the song, and they
Hmm.
sing so loud that it drowns out the PA. And basically, they're singing it the way they usually sing it. And if they do two choruses in a row and you don't, well, you're going to do two choruses in a row because you're just hopping on the train. But
Yeah,
to hear 6,000 people singing your song,
600,000.
600,000 singing a song that you had a small part of,
Yeah.
that's helping them express their heart to their creator is beyond any kind of hit record, any kind of award that you can imagine. That feeling and that sense of just accomplishment and just gratefulness is just unbelievable. Yeah.
Integrity had such a rich stable of talent. You've mentioned Don Moen.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Anybody else that either behind the scenes or was an artist that had an incredible impact on you, and how did they have that
Daryl
impact?
Evans had an incredible impact.
Tell me about that.
You know, I didn't know I didn't know Daryl too much, but just he was an incredible songwriter.
Mhm.
And man, his records took the church by storm. I
Yeah,
mean,
"Trading My
and
Sorrows," new song
yeah,
"Horizon."
yeah,
Yeah, "Let the River Flow."
yes, and Robin Mark, another one. I've
Yeah,
toured a lot with Robin.
yeah,
And he's a funny guy, but man, he's got a heart for God. Yeah.
unbelievable. How's worship changed since the '80s and '90s, and are there any foundational principles that you think we've maybe drifted from that we need to kinda return to?
I think it goes in seasons and waves, and I think hopefully we're getting past the big technology wave where everything's um, on the click, and we're using things in worship that aren't really there live. We're playing to a tape. And hopefully we get past that somewhat. And I think we've become reliant on technology too much.
Mhm.
Um, and we've used it in my church a lot. And at one point I still use Ableton, but I was using Ableton, and I was just praying one day, God, let the computer crash
Hmm.
so we can just be a real band and worship you, and
Yeah,
not be held to a 3 minute, 3 minute envelope of worship, or a 20-minute section, and I don't know. I just think we need to get back to the real heart of things.
you feel it too, right? Like, I know as a musician, when we're not being supported by all the technology, there's
Yeah.
something, Lenny, there's something about the language that's being spoken in that moment that feels less artificial.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just feel it. I feel it in.
It comes from the human heart,
Yeah.
and you can't get that from a robot. You know,
Wow.
you can get a
That
lot of
is.
information from a robot, but you can't get a heart. So, but it's the age we live in. It's everywhere. It's in everything,
Mhm.
and we just got to do our best to kind of get back to where things are real. And I think there's a generation coming up that realizes that really are hungry for that.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see it return more.
And it's
Maybe not
interesting, uh,
maybe not the way it was in the 80s and 90s, but I think you'll
yeah.
see.
We really pursue, and I think the thing that was driving that is we were really pursuing musical excellence. We
Yeah.
wanted things to be excellent. But you know what? I would say that there is something that even a non-musical person can recognize that
Mhm.
is authentic when it's not
Yeah.
being undergirded by all
Yeah.
this technology. And there's something, what is it? Mick Jagger said, I'd rather have a note sung with, I'd rather have a bunk note sung with passion
Mhm.
than to have it perfectly on tune
Yeah.
and
Right.
delivered. And I think that there's something, man, there's a lot of hope for people like me who have mediocre voices. I can't sing like you, but there's the honesty of someone's heart even shining through, and
That's
just like,
right.
this is the local church, this isn't Broadway.
Yeah, and the technology, talking about being excellent, the technology keeps you from being excellent because you're relying on it, and if it goes away, I mean, while it's there, you don't have to work as hard, but if it's not there, you have to work, and you become excellent.
It's almost as if we become lazy when we depend on it,
Yes,
like a
we have.
crutch.
We have, yeah.
I can tell
We're
you.
so people expect it to sound like Hillsongs or Chris
Mm.
Tomlin or whoever or Passion and, they expect that when they come to the local church, and I think that was what a lot of people were under pressure to provide in worship, a lot of worship leaders and bands.
You mentioned Hillsong, did you ever get out there?
Nope, got invited, but they never sent a plane ticket.
Lenny, I want to circle back to songwriting again. Many churches now want to write songs for their congregations. I was always impacted. Robert Stigwood told Barry Gibb this in the 1960s. He told Barry, he said, "Don't write songs for the charts of today. Write songs for 100 years from today."
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that is great advice. What more would you say to songwriters? What are some tips on crafting and shaping songs that will outlast them?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, you try to write about things that are timeless. It's hard to teach people stuff like that, and I don't know. I just say write what's in your heart. And
Hmm.
I tell people, writing songs is the creative process is sort of like digging a well. When you first dig a well, and the water that comes out is really muddy, and after you pump that water for a few days, it gets really clear. And the creative process is like that. Songwriting is like you got to get the mediocre and bad songs out before the great ones start coming, and they will.
Mm,
I think the more you write, the more you'll be able to craft your songs into songs that'll be here for more than a year or, you know, more than what the fad, dictates
yeah,
at that
that's great
time.
advice. That's great advice. Lenny, a little bit more of a personal question. You've been around the block. You've been in this industry for a long time. You've been in the church, and you understand all
Mhm.
the tensions that happen and the politics that happen within that. Lenny, what would you say is the greatest misconception people have had about you or your artistry or your ministry?
Hmm. Gosh, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I don't know
No,
if this.
no one ever
I,
gets you wrong.
I
No one
think,
ever comes in proximity and says, "I think he's like this," and you're like, "You got no. That's not who I am."
yeah. I mean, I still have a lot of friends that are not in the church, and I
Mm,
actually spend more time with them these days because I'm not on the worship team. I'm not, an integral part of the church worship scene, you might say. But um, I do songwriter nights, like I was at in Fort Payne with the guys from the band Alabama, and
okay.
I did their songwriter night with them. You know, and it's amazing because I do my pop song, I do my country hits, and then I'll stick in about a 30-second testimony, and I'll sing above all. And
Mm,
the place is like they all stood up.
yeah.
It was like, I never would never get those opportunities if I was leading worship in a church. Not to say that was a great season for me, but this season is where I'm not in the church anymore, but I'm outside the church, but I am the church outside the church, if that makes any sense. So I love being in those situations because I get to tell my story a lot. I'll do
I I
a
love
radio
that.
interview. I'll do a radio interview at a country station because I'm in town doing a songwriter event.
Right.
I'm going to be in Franklin at the Franklin Theater. It's a country night, pretty much. So I'll do an interview at the country station, and they'll say, "So a lot of those country DJs used to be Christian DJs and Christian music, so they know me." They'll say, "So how'd you make that transition? from Christian music into, I mean, from pop music into Christian, it's like God just swung the door wide open.
Right.
So I can tell my
Opportunity
story.
to tell your
I can tell my
story.
story in 30 seconds. I can tell it in 3 minutes, or I can tell it in 30 minutes. So I've got, so many
Different
versions of it.
versions. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, you just do which one you got time for. And so,
I love that, and good on you for maintaining those relationships. I think it's
y-
sometimes hard for Christians that
yes.
that get so insular, and then they forget that,
Yeah.
man, we need to be maintaining, like, the whole thing was to go and make disciples. Like, we
Yeah.
forget the going part and the
That's
so
right.
and some people don't have capacity to hold some of the tensions that come with that. So good
Yeah.
for you for doing that. That's incredible.
Well, they know me for who I am, and they'll say a cuss word and they say, "Oh, sorry, man." Say,
Right.
no, I've heard that before. I actually said that before a lot. That's not new to me.
Lenny, what's the hardest lesson that you've had to learn in Christian music, and how did it shape you to become more Christ-like?
um, I think the hardest thing was, when I first got saved, is coming into the church and they wanted me to be the worship leader. And I was, like I said before, I was 31 years old, and I had two guys in their 70s playing guitars, and one was probably needed to be on hee haw, and the other one knew three chords. And so here I was used to playing with world class musicians, and I was playing with guys that knew three chords. And it was just that it was a humbling time. And I just learned to just be grateful for what I had, I guess,
Mhm.
and try to build a team, which I eventually was able to do. And I've seen the fruit of that labor now, where we have, multiple campuses and multiple bands and great singers and players and worship leaders. And it's not because of me, but it started where I was at. That's where it started. And so I'm thankful that I got to be on the early days and see the fruit of it.
I love that. I love that. Lenny, when you look back on your musical journey, the highs and the lows, what would you want the world to know about the heart of the man behind your songs and musical career? What are the most important things about the man that you see staring back at you in the mirror?
Um, you know, when it comes right down to it, I'm just a normal guy. I mean, I design houses now for a living, actually. I taught myself CAD 7 years ago, and I built every house we've lived in, designed them. But now I've drawn over 400 house plans in the last 6 years.
Incredible.
And I love doing it as part of the creative process. I'm a creative person, but I'm no one special, really. I'm just a normal guy that is more stubborn than most people and likes to learn a lot of things, to learn how to do a lot of things. So it's not that I'm like extra gifted. It's just like I just love learning, you know.
Mm.
And I don't know. I have to rely on other people to say what they think of me. I'm just a normal guy, I think.
Do you wake up every day thinking, "Man, what's something new I can learn?" Do you have natural curiosity
Oh
that comes
yeah.
out
Oh
every day?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I'm reading a book right now about the power of a moment, and so
Yeah.
much of it can translate into planning and leading worship. And there's this
Hmm.
one concept where he talks about sometimes when you're teaching people to think differently, you want them to trip over the truth, and
Yeah.
you need to focus so much on the problem without
Hmm.
giving into the urge to offer the solution, and just
Right.
dramatize the problem. And then they're
That's
like,
good.
"Oh my goodness, we have to do this. This is urgent. We have to." And it's such
Yeah.
an interesting approach to, learning how to lead people. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn every day as well. And it's
Yeah.
what a blessing. What a blessing to be born at a time when so much information is available to us.
Oh yeah. And I'm thankful that I was born at the time I was, because man, we didn't have air conditioning, we didn't have color TV, we had three channels, and just stuff like that you take for granted today, we didn't have.
Hmm.
Yeah. So makes you
Yeah,
appreciate what we
for
do have
sure.
now. We thought the
Well,
fax machine was everything when it came out. We said it can't get no better than this.
why do people, and still today, I see people receiving fax machines.
I
I'm like,
know,
have you
right?
not heard of email? Like, why
Yeah,
are we
I
still
know, right?
faxing things? Why? Make it go away, Lenny.
Wait a minute, you can send a letter to somebody?
Right, right, right. Gosh. Well, let's wrap up with a kind of bit of a lightning round. Quick answers here. Desert Island album, Christian or secular?
Oh gosh. Jeez. Oh man. Taj Mahal.
Okay. Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Favorite worship song of all time?
Um, what's the Matt Redman song? Shoot.
Heart of Worship?
Heart of Worship. Yeah.
Worship song you wish you wrote?
Ooh, goodness of God.
Producer that you have not yet worked with, but that you would love to work with, living
Mo-
or dying, dead.
Moose Brown. He's a
Moose
Nashville guy.
Brown.
Moose
Okay, I don't
Brown.
know Moose.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Look him up on Facebook.
Okay. Record you wore out as a teenager.
Oh gosh. BB King.
Okay.
Hmm.
Blues.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you remember the title of the record?
No, I don't.
Just something by BB King.
Yeah. BB King and Taj Mahal records I wore out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Band or artist some may be surprised to know that you like.
Um, Gosh, Bob Dylan.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Songwriter
Yeah.
of all songwriters.
Totally. I remember my parents playing Slow Train Comin' when I was a kid.
Yeah. You know, it's
And
recorded here, don't you?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
When He Returns is on that record.
Yeah.
He's got plans of his own to set up
Yeah.
his throne when he
Yeah.
returns. Yeah.
Both of those records were recorded. I was actually in the studio when they were doing them.
Lenny, let's
I was on their label. That was the Capitol label, was in Muscle Sound, and I was a staff writer, and I was on the label, so I was there every day writing when he was there. I never met him. I was in the same building every day for 2 months and never met him because there were so many people wanting to be around him and stuff, and
oh, no doubt.
I didn't want to be another fly on the wall, you know?
Oh my goodness.
But
And
yeah.
you know those two projects
Yeah.
I love Saved. I was blinded by the devil, born
Yeah.
already ruined, stone
Yeah.
cold dead as I stepped out of the womb. By his grace I have been touched. By his word I've been healed. By his hand I've been delivered. By his spirit I've been sealed. Like
Yeah.
just a lesson in songwriting right there. That's
Those those
incredible.
those 2 cassettes stayed in my truck because when I got saved, those 2 cassettes were like my anchor. I would listen to them nonstop.
No doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt. Gotta Serve Somebody, most people don't know. Grammy Song of the Year, 1979.
Yeah.
Christian song.
Yeah.
Clearly, overtly
Oh,
Christian
yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, last one. You've already mentioned one of your songs that does this, but maybe you can think of another. A lyric that makes you cry.
Oh gosh. Sheesh. I don't know. Should have thought this through, I guess. I remember reading through those, but,
A lyric
um,
that makes you cry.
gosh. Does that have to be somebody else's song or
It could be yours.
probably like a rose trampled on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's the lyric. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Lenny, I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for spending this last hour with me. It has been so wonderful
Hey,
to get to know you and do a little trip down memory lane. And thank you so much for your contributions that have shaped people like me as well.
thank you, Travis.